So you've got a melody you really like. You wrote it yourself, you're really proud of it, but you don't know how to add chords to it. That's what we're going to get into. Hey, I'm Isaac Schanno Johnson. If you don't know me, I'm a musician, composer, producer, and I make videos about all that fun stuff. Music composition, music production. So make sure you hit that subscribe button to see videos like this in the future. All right, so let's get into it. How do we write chords to a melody that we already have? There's a lot of different ways we can do that, but we're going to go through some basics first. So the first step to doing this is find the scale that it's using. Most of the time when you do this, this might mean looking at the first and last notes, the notes that it resolves to, and taking a guess from there. A lot of the time, melodies will end on either the first, third, or fifth scale degree of a scale. Sometimes you'll have stuff that resolves on different scale degrees, which makes it a little harder, but that's a general rule that you can follow is first, third, fifth. And another thing you can do is look at how many flats or sharps there are while you're playing this melody. If there are a certain number of sharps and that lines up with, let's say, a D major scale, so you have 2 sharps, use that. It's probably in D major. If it sounds like it's a sad melody and it ends on B, but it has 2 sharps, it's probably in B minor. So use that knowledge to try and figure out what scale it's using. If you don't know all of your 12 major scales, you can look that up and figure that out as you're trying to figure out the scale that this melody is using. But that's the first step, is you want to try and figure out what scale your melody is using, which often means you're looking at what scale degrees or notes it resolves to. Often you'll have melodies that resolve to a specific scale degree, like 1, 3, 5. After you found the scale, you kind of want to figure out what are the diatonic chords within this scale. Now, I have a video about harmonic analysis. Go check that video out. But basically, what you want to do is figure out the diatonic chords. Diatonic means using the notes of a specific scale. Let's say we're in F major. The diatonic chords in F major are going to be chords built off of only the notes of F major, which are F, G, A, B flat, C, D, and E. Those are the only notes we have to use in chords. So if we make chords off of that, we have F major or F major 7, G minor or G minor 7, A minor or A minor 7, B flat major or B flat major 7, C major or C dominant 7, and then E diminished or E minor 7 flat 5. Those are the diatonic chords of F major. So if you have a melody that's in F major, those are the chords you want to start to choose from. You can deviate from this once you get an idea of what diatonic harmony sounds like, but I suggest starting with this just to get an idea of harmonizing a melody first. Don't get too crazy right away, because you can kind of get lost and then eventually you just have no idea what chords to use. Start with something that's a little more simple, that's using just diatonic chords, to get an idea of what harmony and harmonizing a melody feels and sounds like. Next one is you want to look for chord tones. So what this means is you're looking for chords that have the note in the melody that is being played. Now, maybe you have a melody that's got lots of notes in it. You're then probably looking for what notes land on the first, second, third, and fourth beat. If those are all different notes, see if there's a chord that has all of them. If there isn't a chord that has all of them, look at the first and third beat. See if there's a chord that has those 2 notes. That'll often give you a hint. Often melodies are written using chord tones because you want them to sound good or pleasing over the certain chords that you're using, and you often want them to be matching up. Sometimes you'll find melodies that don't use chord tones, but they might be using some other more involved notes that we're going to get into later. Some notes that sound a little more jazzy, that add a little more color. But for now, look for chords that have the notes that the melody is using. Once you have found the chords that have the notes that the melody is playing, see if they sound good. See if you like how they sound. For example, if your melody is in, let's say, F major, and the melody is really playing, hanging on orienting itself around an A note. See if an F major chord sounds good. See if an A minor chord sounds good. See how a D minor chord sounds. See how maybe a C chord, if you want to get colorful, or a B flat chord sounds if you want to get colorful. But you want to start with the chords that include that note in the chord. For example, A is the third scale degree, the third of an F major chord, because an F major chord is F, A, and C. So check if that chord sounds good with your melody. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe you don't like that sound. So then check D minor. D minor is D, F, A. So A is a part of that chord. Maybe you like that sound. Maybe you don't. So then try last one, A minor, A, C, and E. If that is something you like, there we go. If one of those three is something you like, you've found the chord for that piece of the melody. If you don't like any of those and you want a more colorful sound, start with something like B flat major, where A is the seventh of that chord, B flat, D, F, A. There we go. That's another one you could do. You could try G minor, G, B flat, D. There, the A note is going to be the ninth of that chord, so it'll have a different sound, a more colorful sound. You could also try C major, where A is the 13th or the 6th of that chord. C, E, G, A would be the 6th. See if you like that sound. There are lots of different things to try out as you're figuring this out. Next thing you can do if you want to get more involved with writing chords for your melodies is choose chords that have the note in the melody as a tension. So a tension is basically something that's outside of a triad or a seventh chord. So triads are 1, 3, and 5. For example, if we're in F major and we have a triad of F major, then we have F, A, and C. So that's the first scale degree, the third scale degree, and the fifth scale degree, 1, 3, 5. A seventh chord would include the seventh scale degree. So that would be F, A, C, E, because E would be the seventh scale degree in F major. So if you want to get a more colorful sound out of your melody and out of your harmonies, then choose chords where the melody note is a tension or a seventh. So what that might mean is, let's say you have a melody that hangs on a G note. Choose an F major 7 chord. That will mean that the melody is playing the ninth of that chord. That'll give you a more colorful sound than if you're using a G minor chord, because a G minor chord, G is the root note. So it won't really be adding much color at all. You could do the same thing if you're playing G and you use a B flat chord. In B flat, the G note is going to be the 13th or the 6th of that chord. That'll give you a different sound than if it's the root, than if it's the ninth, like F major, or if it's the seventh, like in A minor, right? All of these different things are things that you can experiment with and play around with as you're trying to figure out the chords for your melody. Another thing that you can think about is the harmonic rhythm. Harmonic rhythm is basically how fast the chords change. If you have a melody that changes chords every 2 beats, there's a new chord. The harmonic rhythm is 2 beats. If you have a melody where the chords change every 4 beats, every measure in 4/4, then you have the harmonic rhythm as 4 beats or 1 measure. So decide from the beginning what the harmonic rhythm is going to be. Most of the time, you're going to want the harmonic rhythm to be 1 measure. And I would start doing it that way, because starting with something that's a little more regimented and sometimes a little more square, a little more traditional, is a good way to get used to these ideas, right? If you're not used to planning out the harmonic rhythm of a song, start simple. Mess around with it after that once you get used to what that simple thing is, but start simple so that you can get a grasp of the idea first. So plan out the harmonic rhythm. How quickly do you want the chords to change? How many chords do you want to have to think of, basically? Sometimes you might want a song to have a harmonic rhythm of 2 bars. You want that chord to be played for a long time. You want to really explore what that chord has. So maybe you have it be 4 measures or something, right? You really want to hear the sound of that chord for a long period of time. And then you switch. Whatever it is, think about the harmonic rhythm before you start to think about the chords. Last thing to do when you're harmonizing a melody is test it out. Play it. You're gonna find chords that you don't like. You're gonna find chords that don't sound good over the melody that you're playing. You're gonna find chords that just don't fit in the progression you're trying to make. And that's fine. A lot of learning composition and learning an instrument and learning how to make music is testing, checking something, editing it, getting rid of it, and then using something else. A lot of making music, a lot of the process of learning how to write music is going to be trial and error. That's basically how you're going to learn what you like and what you don't like. You're going to have to experiment and do it. It's a lot of fun because you'll find chords that you don't like for the song you're making, but you do like that chord progression for a different type of song. So then write that down on a post-it note, stick it on your keyboard so that you can use it later for a different song you're making, right? You want to think of all of these different things, see what's right for the song you're making. Maybe you find an idea that you don't like that you never want to hear again. Great, toss it out, whatever. But maybe you find an idea that you do like, but not for this specific song, so you write it down and keep it for a future song. And then you find what you like for this specific song. But you're gonna have to test stuff out. You're gonna have to hear it. You're gonna have to try it, see if it works, then cross it out and move on. Maybe you don't like the sound of, maybe your melody plays an A a lot and you put a B flat major chord, but you don't like that sound. So then cross it out. You don't want to use that. You want to use an A minor chord. Fine. You found out that you don't like the sound of that B flat major chord with the A in the melody for this specific song. Maybe you like it for a different song. There we go. You've still found out something that you want to write or don't want to write. You've figured out a little bit more what sound you're looking for. So that's the goal, right? You want to be able to think, what do I want the chords to sound like? What are those chords? You want those to be closer together so you don't have to do as much trial and error. But in order to get there, you're going to have to go by trial and error because you're going to have to figure out, okay, this is the sound I want. I don't know what chord it is. And then you try out a different chord on top and you're like, no. Try out a different chord on top. No, that's not it either. You tried a different chord. Oh, that's it. You have this sort of like compass that you're trying to use to guide you. And the more you can sort of like focus in on what the sound is that you want, you'll be able to hear and see more clearly what specific notes and combinations of notes and chords you want to put together. So that's it for this video. I hope you found it useful. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something about music. Make sure you hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. And as always, thank you for watching. See you next time. Peace.